Good morning, everyone. My name is Cadet Pedraza, your AFJRTC's Mission Support Commander, and this is Cadet Jacob Sanchez, the AFJRTC's Unit Commander. We welcome you to this observance of Patriot Day. This is a ceremony combined effort by AFJRTC's unit, the Associated Student Body, cheer, choir, FFA, and our music department. Today we honor the 2,296 civilians, firefighters, police officers, and military whose lives were lost in the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001 in New York at the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and Washington, D.C., and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Please take your seats. It is my pleasure to introduce our principal, Ms. Hawk, to come up and welcome our distinguished guests for today's ceremony and say a few words.
Good morning, community members, dignitaries, staff, and students. I am Courtney Hall, proud principal here at San Jacinto High School. We are so excited to have you join us this morning in person or through the live stream provided by our Tiger Media Network. I'm so glad to be here with you all this morning to pay tribute to the lives lost. While it is a somber day of remembrance, I say I believe that the legacy of September 11, 2001 holds different meaning for us at different times. That legacy is love. As people ran into the Twin Towers to save others, knowing they may never come out, as strangers came together and made the ultimate sacrifice, as phone calls were made, they were to send messages of love. And in their last moments, strangers from different backgrounds with different opinions and different politics held each other in comfort. In their grief, the families of those lost have held each other in love. For those of us who were watching the news that day, we held hands and we were grateful in those terrifying moments. The thing on our mind was to ensure that those we loved knew it. The last 18 months have seen many divisive issues arise, and it is obvious that as a whole, we have forgotten. Because we need it now more than ever. In their usual style, our Air Force Junior ROTC cadets and their leaders, Colonel Howard, Sergeant DeMarty, and Sergeant Lohr, have worked tirelessly to make this morning's program worthy of whichever legacy this day holds for you. I'd like to welcome with gratitude our dignitaries and guests that are here this morning and that make programs like this a possibility. Thank you for being here this morning, and I'd like to welcome back to the microphone our AFJRTC Unit Commander.
Fallen, we will raise our United States flag and place it over their heart.
Thank you, choir. Take your seats. It is now my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Mrs. Kim Levette, Data Management Coordinator for the San Antonio Unified School District.
Good morning. Such a privilege to be here today. It's challenging to think about an event that happened before you were born. On September 11th, 2001, I was driving to work. I had to be on the road at 5:30 in the morning. I was commuting to Santa Ana. It took me 2 hours to get there. Little did I know the destruction that would take place. And by the time I arrived to work, the Twin Towers had collapsed, the Pentagon had been hit, and a plane had crashed into a field in Pennsylvania where brave citizens overtook the terrorists so that they would not hit their target, which was the Liberty Bell. It was hard to imagine the destruction. And what we saw were patriots rise up and come together, our first responders giving unselfishly to save everyone that they could. On that day, 3,000 people were lost. A patriot. A patriot is a person and defends it against all enemies. And we saw troops deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq. On December 7th, 2021, we will celebrate another anniversary that occurred before I was born, and it was the attack on Pearl Harbor. Why do I remember this event? It is because of the patriot I choose to honor and remember and recognize. On December 7th, 1941, actually December 6th, a young girl in Iowa celebrated her 7th birthday. The very next day, Japan launched an attack against Pearl Harbor, and on that day, 2,400 lives were lost. There was a young man in Missouri who was 17, and 6 months later, he would enlist in the Navy to serve his country and become a patriot. Those people were my parents. And when I was a little girl, my favorite time was when Daddy would come home from work and I would sit on the toilet while he shaved his face, and I noticed he had 3 belly buttons and I only had 1. How does that happen? I felt gypped. Daddy, why do you have 3 belly buttons and I only have 1? Well, I was driving officers. What's an officer? Well, it's someone in command over me. And I got to drive them to the officers club, and I was racing away, and I took a corner too fast and the Jeep flipped, and the rivets of the tire went through his stomach. They did not expect him to survive the surgery, and they sent a telegram home to his mother saying that he had passed away. But he survived. And he ended up on the USS Battleship California, and they fought in the South Pacific. There was another event where he had been brushing his teeth, and when he left the restroom, the sailor who took his place was struck and killed by a shell. Oh, Daddy, if you hadn't lived, you wouldn't be here to be my dad. And he smiled, and he was thankful that he was here to be my dad. Another event was when he was stationed at a gun, and they moved him to another position on the ship. And the sailor who took his place had his arm ripped off by a shell that struck him. Moments before, my dad had been there How in the world could his life be spared so he could come home and be my dad? Isn't it amazing that this young man from Missouri and this young lady from Iowa would end up in Washington State, and 13 years after World War II ended, they would meet and marry and have 4 children. And we were raised to love our country, to love our flag. When I see the flag and I see what it represents during wartime, you look through the night to see if our flag is still there. Are we winning? Have we won? What patriots have served and given the ultimate price, their life, for our freedom? On February 29th, February 23rd, 1999, I was with my father when he drew his last breath. And the last honor you can receive in life is to be buried in the National Cemetery with a military burial service. The flag draped the table where his ashes sat. There was a 21-gun salute, and as they played taps, servicemen folded that flag and handed it to my mother and thanked her for his service to his country from a grateful nation. There is no greater honor than to sacrifice and serve your country. Who will you remember? What dates will you remember? How do you honor those patriots who have served so freely? If you have served as a first responder, or if you have served in the military or are currently serving in the military, would you stand? We want to thank you for your service. For our cadets, and there may be students here, if you are planning on enlisting or you have a heart to be a first responder, would you please raise your hand? We honor you and thank you for the service that you will willingly give to your country. Thank you for the opportunity of giving me this time to speak before you today.
Thank you, Mrs. Lovett. The September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks on the United States were the deadliest terrorist acts in world history and most devastating foreign attack on United States soil since the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. Our color guard will now place the United States flag at half-staff and we will present a wreath as a token of our remembrance of their sacrifice, followed by the band playing taps. Taps is a bugle call played at dusk during flag ceremonies and at military funerals by the United States Armed Forces. While taps is being played, please remove hats and stand quietly. For current and former military members, render the hand salute. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise.
You got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, our choir has put together a patriotic melody of service songs in honor of our armed forces fighting the war on terrorism. Veterans, you are welcome to salute when your service song is played.
To fight for the right and to build a nation's might, and the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. And it's high, high, hey, the army's on its way. Now the brigade is on a strong. We'll always know that the army goes rolling along. That the army goes
choir. Let us never forget the tragic event of September 11, 2001, where 2,296 civilians, firefighters, police officers, and military lost their lives to terrorist attacks in New York at the World Trade Center, the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. This concludes our ceremony. All guests are invited to the refreshments provided by District Nutrition Services in the AFJRC, ROTC Room 403. Have a great day, everyone.
If you need everything, Ted. If you need all the mic.